Challenges facing disabled children in Tanzania are many, a big number of them. The first and the foremost challenge is that they do not access their basic human rights like education. And of course in Tanzania, as one of the developing countries, education is the only key to life. So having somebody who has not accessed education, then he has not perfectly accessed life.
Takia amezaliwa mzima, amezaliwa mwaka 2011, mwaka 2007 ndio alikuwa anaumwa macho tu ya kawaida, nampeleka kliniki Ikulili pale, anapata dawa, anaweka, natumia siku 5, namuona bado macho hayataki, narudia tena hospitali. Nimeenda hivyo hadi wakaniambia subiri, watakuja waganga kutoka Msasani, waganga wa macho kutoka Dar-es-salaam Msasani. Nikasubiria mwezi wa 11, walipokuja pale ilikuwa kama tarehe 11 hivi, mwezi wa 11, tarehe 9 mwezi wa 11 wakaja pale, wakatuandikisha na sisi. Mimi ikabidi tuje huko hospitali Msasani. Jisikia uchungu sana kupatikana mwanangu na kila mara.
Why do you feel sad, Asha?
Jisikia vibaya kwa kuwa mwanangu anaisha kwa maskini.
In what way is she poor?
Ndio maskini tena, manake hata akiwa maskini kwa hali inabidi macho anayo, anahangaika mwenyewe na maisha yake. Lakini sasa ndio ameshakuwa maskini wa kusaidia, mtu wa kumsaidia hana.
How are your neighbors and your family and those around you? How do they behave towards you since Takia became blind?
Majirani hawachukulii lolote, wanasema tu mtoto basi amekuwa ni mlemavu, maskini basi.
Takia is lucky. Her older cousin, Rukia, who has a visual impairment herself, lobbied on her behalf and convinced Takia's mother to send her to Uhuru Mchanganyiko Primary School in Dar-es-salaam. Here she has an opportunity to be educated, something that the vast majority of disabled children in Tanzania simply do not have. Established in 1921, the Uhuru Mchanganyiko Primary School is one of the oldest in the country and was the first to accept disabled children. Of the 1,200 current students, 62 are blind, 11 are deafblind, and 55 have intellectual disabilities. Beside specialist teachers and blind teachers, the school employs 4 carers, who are responsible for some 35 disabled girls in 2 dormitories. The carers work in shifts and alternate, one covering the day, the other the night.
Kazi zangu za kila siku ni kuhudumia tu watoto wenye ulemavu na mazingira yao, na chakula, kuwafulia, na wengine hawajiwezi kabisa. Kwa hiyo natakiwa niwafulie na namna ya kuwaelekeza mazingira hali halisi ya hapa. Watoto wana matatizo sangine ya kimavazi. Mavazi, mzazi akimleta hapa mtoto hakumbuki tena kumhudumia kitu chochote. Unamkuta mtoto kwa kweli anakuwa lafu mno. Sasa na wazazi wengine asilimia kubwa wanakuwa hawana nini uwezo. Kwa hiyo akishamleta yeye kamleta tu.
Shauri ambao wa kwanza nilimkalisha chini kwa sababu alimpeleka shule mara kwanza mama yake alilia sana. Akaniambia Takia hataki kusoma. Nikamwambia muache hapo. Nikamchukua Takia nikamwelekeza akakubali kwenda shule. Ushauri wake ni kusoma kwa bidii. Kwa sababu nilimwambia mimi dada yako na tatizo kama la kwako na nimeenda shule nimesoma na nimemaliza chuo kikuu. Kwa hiyo hakuna kinachoshindikana na wewe utasoma utafika mpaka chuo kikuu.
Initially, the blind children are taught separately from the non-disabled children. They are familiarised with the campus and given instruction in basic life skills, mathematical symbols and elementary braille. In preparation for reading and writing braille, the children need to focus on their sense of touch. Taking hold of and feeling various objects such as toys or household items on a string is a first exercise. Each child progressing along the line, identifying and then stating what the object is. Then the children learn the Braille alphabet through progressively smaller means, from bottle caps, set out accordingly on a wall chart, to much more closely arranged and considerably more minuscule beans. And then finally, to the tiny, protruding dots, as Braille appears in a manuscript on paper. After 2 years, when the children are confident in the alphabet and are at the same level of other children in the school, they join classes with their non-disabled peers.
There are no learning and teaching materials and few teachers for special who teaching these blind children, and we get blind who are much disability. Is blind and then is mental retardation. So this is difficult for us teachers.
Whenever you go into the government, ask why don't you enroll these children, they will simply tell you, we don't have enough money to accommodate all of those.
Currently, there is only one teacher training college in Tanzania that offers training in inclusive education. Nationwide, however, many teachers are not aware of inclusive education, do not accept to teach disabled children, and do not have adequate skills to provide the care and support that children with disabilities need.
One of the things that should be done is to involve the disability sector than involving the government in trying to focus on education for children with disabilities. We don't believe that in 5 years' time, Millennium Development Goal, especially that which is mentioning a bit of education for all.
What do you wish for Takia's future? What are your hopes for her?
Kumpeleka shule na elimu kama zile pale ilivyokuwa nazo zile, na yeye labda sijui anaweza kupata maisha yake ya baadaye, elimu yake ya kusoma.
Inclusive education is very it's a young program in Tanzania. If a child is enrolled in an inclusive setting, they will access the buildings of a school, but they will not access education. The market, the employment is now going to the private sector, and the private sector wants a person who can immediately make profit, who can immediately make his employer benefit from him. And so they won't be employed because they won't have any knowledge, they won't have any skill, at least to produce anything in the private sector.
Alikuwa ameenda shule, Mola huyo kwanza aliporudi akasema, mama, mimi najua kusoma na nitasoma kwa bidii. Shukuru kunipeleka shule dada.
Like any child of her age, Takia has her own dream of what she might do when she grows up. Takia has a real chance of continuing to study when she leaves, but will have to be persistent and resilient in the face of the doubt, disbelief, and discrimination around and possibly against her. Having her older cousin as a role model will no doubt help, and organisations like the Tanzanian League of the Blind, with Ad International's continued support, will work relentlessly to challenge and change negative attitudes and to secure equal rights for people with disabilities. We will come back to visit the Uhuru Mchanganyiko Primary School again in a few years' time to see what progress Takia has made in her education, but also to witness how readily and to what extent Tanzania's commitment to improve the situation of disabled people here has moved along.